This is the story of the gatekeepers, protecting mankind from the grasp of the evil invaders.
This is the end of anime as we know it.
You're a phony! Hey, this guy's a great big phony! You're a great big phony, you know that? That's right, you're a big fat phony! You're a phony! Hey everybody, this guy's a great big phony!
Welcome, everyone, to the Fake Fans Podcast, the ultimate in gatekeeping podcast.
I didn't even know this was a gatekeeping podcast.
Oh, that's rude to interrupt, Chad.
That's right, you fucking piece of shit.
God.
I can't get demonetized because I had my demonetization stolen from me. That means I can say all the F-bombs I want.
But before you do, are you going to introduce your guests?
That's right. So I am your host, John. And with me are my two Yu Yu Hakusho enthusiast guests. Number one, Ben.
Whoa, that's me. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. You did very well with very minimal swearing.
Okay, now go to Chad.
It's me, Chad. Hey. Now back to Johnny Otaku.
Okay, I'm not Johnny Otaku. He's a real guy, so I don't want to steal his identity.
It's John the Otaku.
Yeah, John the Otaku.
John the Otaku. Exactly. I will also play your favorite songs from Tenchi Muyo and Gundam Wing. And then fight everyone at Funimation.
Yeah, that's what happened. He just got into the anime duel. Everyone at Funimation.
Johnny Otaku said, "This is only 80% of my power." And then he reached through the wall and killed Vic Mignogna.
Well, I know you're going to have a lot of stuff to say about
people
Funimation.
People don't know, those allegations against Vic Mignogna, that was actually a clone spawned after Johnny Otaku disintegrated the real Vic Mignogna.
Yeah, and he reformed, but he was evil now.
He reformed as Kiv, which is it's Vic backwards.
That's wow! I can't believe you figured out the deep lore.
Yeah. So I know we just dropped.
But actually, this is about Yu Yu Hakusho.
So we watched the live action Yu Yu Hakusho, and as you can probably tell, we liked it.
Speaking of Vic Mignogna, remember Bui?
I forgot he was Bui, and they downpitched his voice. And people would go to Vic Mignogna at cons and ask him to do the voice, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's rough on my throat." It's like, you didn't do the voice. It was digitally manipulated. He didn't do that voice. They just downpitched him, and I'll talk about this later in the podcast that Funimation in their dubbing actually had issues with casting because they were running out of actors as the show went on. That's a real thing that happened with Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of weird voice acting in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So today we watched all 5 episodes of the Netflix Yu Yu Hakusho. We all have opinions on it. I tried to hold back my thoughts of while we were watching it because we all watched it together. We literally sat on a couch and all watched it.
Yeah, it's a big family.
Say a couple things. I think generally we all came out liking it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
overall, it was a
I
lot
liked
of
it.
fun.
It's like a Yu Yu Hakusho speedrun. Yusuke was no clipping and making sure that the plot moved along way quicker.
Yeah, I love when he jumped against a wall 3 times and they no-clipped to Hanging Neck Island.
That's true. That did happen. I don't like calling it a speedrun, though, because that sort of implies, like, it makes me think of, like, some of the other anime movies where they just, like, race through the plot without touching on any of the important stuff. It's just, like, set piece, set piece, set piece.
They filtered out only, so that it's only the important stuff.
Yeah, and like, I think another, it's not an anime, but The Last Airbender also had that issue of speed running through episodes of the show, doing it fucking atrociously, and it is nowhere near comparable to The Last Airbender.
Yeah, it cuts out pretty much everything that you consider like a major plot beat, but just keeps everything that's like a consistent through line, just the themes, I guess.
Before we talk more about it, though, I actually want to ask you guys, tell me about your relationship with Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, yeah, I guess we should.
Ben, we've been going steady for years.
Yeah. Ben, since you don't have a joke answer, why don't you go first?
Oh, yeah. Well, the joke is that I used to be a bridger. Everyone laughed.
I
don't know what a bridging is. Can you explain it to me?
I meticulously went through every second of Yu Yu Hakusho and tried to make unfunny jokes out of it and voiced myself over them.
Oh, so you're Lanny Pator.
Oh, no. I am very separate from him.
Yeah, they got a divorce.
Listen, we fought long and hard over who
Yeah,
would get
Laney
the right
and Pater
to
split up,
abridge.
so
The right to
we
abridge Yu
have
Yu
Pater
Hakusho.
right here.
And as soon as I beat him, I started my own. And then I got to the very end of the Dark Tournament where all the good stuff happened, and I stopped. Just to make sure that nobody appreciated what I did.
Okay, what is your relationship with the actual Yu Yu Hakusho?
I mean, it was like my favorite show at the time. It was before I watched Hunter x Hunter, which I think I like more now. But overall, yeah, it was my entryway into manga right after I got into Yu-Gi-Oh.
Chad, you can't see me, but I did just turn to look at you. So why don't you start
You
speaking?
should point at him over the
Yeah, no,
monitor.
it's it was one of the first shonen animes that I ever really watched. I didn't really watch too much anime until I was like late teenager. So I remember enjoying a lot of aspects of it. It's kind of funny because I remember that I had a lot of issues with I think I just had a lot of issues with shonen stuff, I guess, because I didn't really grow up watching that kind of anime. So
Yeah, what did you say your first anime was?
it's probably like Cowboy Bebop or something like that.
Yeah, that'll color your opinions different.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is what anime is like, Cowboy Bebop, and then none of it was like that. So
I watched Yu Yu Hakusho on Adult Swim, and I liked it a lot. Introduced by way of the Funimation dub.
you know what? That is just reminding me is I did watch Yu Yu Hakusho when it was coming out. I would have been younger than late teens, but I remember when they took it off Adult Swim and they stopped saying curse words. I was like, this show sucks, and then I stopped watching it.
That happened to me too, because I did remember when they re-aired the Hiei episode. I always remember Hiei went come out here, come out. No, Yusuke says get out here, Hiei. I want to kick your ass. And I remember being like, I can't wait to hear that on Toonami. And then he says, come out here, Hiei, I want to kick your face in. And I was like, I cried a little bit. I couldn't believe it.
You guys are making me remember my core memories because the manga release from Viz was way behind on the anime. The anime was coming out, but I didn't have cable growing up.
I didn't have the Yu Yu Hakusho channel.
I had the first couple chapters ever since he came back to life. We bought volume 3, which was where that happened. He first came back to life, and nothing super cool was happening in that yet. But we heard whispers of the Dark Tournament and all that stuff. And I remember we just got the internet, so what we did was we went to Google Images to look up characters from the Dark Tournament. That was the best access I had to that kind of stuff.
There's so many fucking Dragon Ball rumors that started because of that. I remember they didn't really air the later movies for a while, but I remember in the 90s you could Google the Dragon Ball Z movies and you could see this is cooler and he's Frieza's brother, and I was like, what the fuck? Frieza has a brother? Yeah, I even did that with Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I had fucking. Oh, this is an embarrassing story, so I'm going to ignore it. But yeah, I agree, Ben.
Come on, now I want to hear it.
No, let me tell my embarrassing story instead if you don't want to.
Go for it.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, same thing for me. I was just getting acquainted with it through just random stuff I found online. I thought I found this website that just kind of explained the general plot outline of episode 1, and I was learning to make web pages at the time just from basic HTML. You can just make a notepad and type an HTML document and that'll turn it into a web page, not online. And so I started learning how to do that, and I was making my own website purely to talk about what happens in the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Because I thought I had the inside scoop, you know?
That would have been a great website where we don't talk about other episodes, just the first one. Yeah, you should still make this website. I want to know everything there is to know about episode 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
You just want to scroll down a webpage that's literally just paragraphs of me explaining it.
And people
I wasn't
commenting
good at
only
making
about
webpages.
and you ban anyone who comments about any other episode.
This was when I was 12. The web pages were just text on a screen with a funky background.
Episode 1. So I pulled up this episode on Netflix and I skimmed it a little bit, and I was already blown away. Just as Yusuke was when that truck fucking obliterated him.
Yeah, he got fucking obliterated, man.
That was great. I loved that his death was so brutal.
Yeah, no question there. He's dead.
And back to the opening shot, I like that he's kind of goosenecking at a crash site, and then you see that it's his own. That's some good camera work to start off the series on.
Yeah, they do a lot of longer takes. I think it's because they have a lot of digital stuff going on. I noticed a lot of digital doubles in there. But they actually looked really good, and a lot of the time it was for demon guys, so them moving a little awkward was perfect.
Oh yeah. And I also like the shot where Yusuke is still kind of coming to terms that he's dead, and then like the ambulance closes the door and it goes through him. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why, but when it happened so quickly, I wasn't thinking about it, and I went, "Oh, whoa!"
Yeah,
I thought that was really
quick.
cool.
It was quick, and so that worked for the CG part. And it also worked just because it was like sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also a longer take for that too. I think that's why it like hit like, oh wow, they were already doing the special effect before the. Yeah, they linger on some special effects, and I was like, oh, they're actually doing like a really good job with this. They were confident that they could linger.
Yeah. Yusuke comes back to life in the third act of the first episode, and then he has a fight.
Yeah.
You know, it basically acclimating to, you are the spirit detective, this is what your job will be, basically.
Yeah. I'd say one of the things that actually threw me off, and I didn't realize it at first, this was after I was thinking about it, but like before going to bed or something that night. They did make him a little bit more of a goody two-shoes in this, like fighting against bullies, and that's why he got in trouble. Whereas in the manga, you can tell he tried really hard to make him a lot more ambiguous as to how good he was, because he was stealing money from people who had stolen money using his name. So he was still stealing, and that made it a bit more justified that he got in trouble. But in this one, he's literally just taking money from the bullies to give it back to the original guy, and it didn't quite. It's like where's the edge? What makes this guy a bad dude? Apparently. Yeah, because like it's unclear as how he got to be an outcast in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, other than that, he smokes on the.
And there's even a scene where Keiko says, "Why don't you just tell them what actually happened?" And he's like, "I don't feel like it." Like that was
kind of a bull. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but he does fight the guy who's getting bullied at the end of that episode. So I think they just wanted to have some sort of connective tissue.
No, that part was good. Like I'm glad that they actually gave like something of a character to the first conflict that he actually had. They're good at making stakes that are personal to Yusuke.
And also, like, the fight scene at the end of that episode was where I realized, like, oh shit, the choreography in this is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like Tagashi didn't do, and a lot of mangaka don't do this. I always say that, I love that Hirohiko Araki does this a lot. It's one of my favorite things about JoJo's, is that the fights always incorporate the environment. And a lot of artists don't like to do that because I get it. They don't like to draw backgrounds.
Yeah.
And you have to be very detail-oriented to keep up with all that stuff.
Yes.
And so it is incredible that Araki can keep up with all that stuff and do all that. But it was so cool that since, this is live action, they get to do all that. There's the one where it's like there's a power box and he like flips it open and bangs the guy into the door of the box.
Yeah.
There's one point in that fight where he gets thrown into like a building. What is it, like a flea market or something? Because he winds up pulling out a bicycle and they're fighting with a bicycle.
Yeah, Yusuke's really fighting for his life in this show.
It's a lot more like street fighting, and like it was kind of what Yusuke was meant to be, but that aspect of him was hardly ever shown on screen. Like there's a point where he's like doing a few tactics against Sensui, I remember, where he's like pulling off his shirt and wrapping up their arms together to get more leverage.
Because he falls in the river and his shirt gets wet.
He's got some tactics like that, but using the environment is definitely the best way to actually be fighting on the streets and stuff like that, as far as like showing that. Yeah,
and the first episode, they also pretty much like tell you straight up that we're going to be combining a bunch of shit, because it opens with like Sakyo's on the TV.
Yep.
They got the Makai insects from the Saint Beast arc.
Yep.
Togoro's not in the first episode, but Tarukane is. Tarukane's in they show the casino and Tarukane's there.
Yeah, I think it really benefits Yu Yu Hakusho to be combined that way, especially because Tagashi's it's very clear that he's one of those spur of the moment type writers, where it's just like, and then this happens, and because I have a cool idea for this to happen, and then later on this happens, and occasionally he tries to tie it back all together at the end, just to make things a bit more satisfying. But it's clear he just made it up as he went along, and this added a lot of structure to it that I really, really liked. And like especially with Yusuke dying, because it was so detached from everything else, having it be related to a yokai incident really made it seem like, okay, Yusuke's involved in this stuff from the very beginning of his story.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I actually want to, not talk about you, I actually want to talk about the English dub, because I've been seeing a lot of hype around how much people love the old dub, and I used to love it as well. It was, like that was how I watched Yu Yu Hakusho. The problem is, and I think that people don't realize that, That dub is not very accurate. It's more accurate than probably like a 4Kids dub or even their Dragon Ball Z dub, but like there are some changes that are like, oh, that's kind of annoying. I'd rather you didn't do that. And then also the voices, like someone did ask us like, how do you feel about the English dub voices not being the dub for the live action show? And my response was, we're watching it subbed because it's a live action thing, and if it's dubbed, it just gives me Godzilla flashbacks.
Yeah.
But honestly, I could not imagine Chuck Huber's voice coming out of that Hiei. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, they definitely do put on cartoony
They're cartoon voices, yeah.
Especially Chris Sabat's Kuwabara.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like that thing just does not come out of a human mouth normally.
Shigeru Chiba just talks like that. That's who voices him in Japanese.
I was going to say,
he's just some cartoon man.
Shigeru Chiba is also a cartoon voice, but it works because Shigeru Chiba is only playing him in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it works. I don't want to hear Chuck Huber coming from live action Hiei. And also, I think that if you're like the Japanese dub, again, Shigeru Chiba is a great Kuwabara. Megumi Ogata as fucking Kurama. John Bergmeyer, you seem like a nice guy, but no.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of.
Yeah, John just wanted to be a hater on the first episode. I know that
there's the intention that Kurama is very effeminate and all that stuff, but like, I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of Kurama just being like this soft-spoken kind of guy.
That's fine, but also John Bergmeyer is of the four, because those OVAs did come out recently. He is the one whose voice has aged the most, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So his Kurama's even rougher now.
So now you're doing this based on that OVA?
Because that's the most recent performance he's done.
Yeah, that's
as Kurama.
I mean, but is there going to be any other performances? Are they going to make a new Yu Yu Hakusho show?
I'm just saying that, like, for the live action,
I mean, it's live action. I'm not gonna. It's weird to watch it dubbed.
I mean, I will say the dub for this was bad. I watched the first episode dubbed. The dub is actually decent, and I say that as someone who gave the Squid Game dub a chance for like 5 seconds and then had to turn it off because it was fucking atrocious. It was actually unwatchable, and I went, "Oh no, don't do this."
Yeah, apparently Kaiji Tang is Taguro in that. So
he was Guts in the awful Berserk anime, but I'm sure he's done better things.
He's Gojo.
Oh, he's Gojo. Okay.
Yeah, he's Gojo. You're like, are you watching that dubbed or subbed?
I was watching it dubbed, and then I caught up, and now I'm watching the subs because the subs come out 2 weeks before the dub.
I see. All those people on Twitter spoiling you or whatever.
They did. They spoiled me when I was watching the subs. Literally, the day an episode came out.
Oh no, they loved. For some reason, Jujutsu Kaisen fans just love telling the spoilers or whatever comes out in the manga and the anime the day it happens.
So literally, it was the day the episode came out, and I saw a video, and someone quote retweeted it going, like, "Oh, this sucks. I hate that this guy made this video." They didn't specify what it was, but it's just like, and the video from the Twitter preview was like a black guy in a beanie doing a bunch of goofy faces and waving his hands, and I'm like, what could he possibly be saying that made this man so mad? So I hit play on the video, and he's like, "I can't believe they killed X, my favorite character."
Oh yeah, that's also a weird thing with that. Not to get on too much of a tangent, but everybody freaking out about characters dying in Jujutsu Kaisen. Yeah, I can't watch this anime. My favorite characters did. I just can't watch this anymore.
I am willing to go on this tangent because I want to complain about. There's people who won't watch Gundam because they're like, "Oh, Tomino kills all his characters, and I don't want to watch it if they're just gonna die." It's like they're not real people.
I mean, also a lot of the times a lot of killing stuff is like, progress the plot forward and stuff.
It's so weird that like there's people that just like if a fictional character dies, they lose their mind, and it's like
I was gonna say
a lot of terminally online people tend to like treat fictional characters as real people. Like they like the slice of life kind of stuff, and just like seeing characters that are just hanging out and being people, I guess, in their own world. But,
but that's like another thing is I see this online too a lot of people being like, well, if there's a character that doesn't have my beliefs in this thing, or like characters doing stuff that doesn't follow their like thought process, and they're like, why would a character do something like this?
I'm not in that space and I haven't seen the show, but I think that's why people were mad at Attack on Titan at one point. I think there was some like political thing. Does Aaron Yeager get very political at some point?
Oh no, he becomes like
the whole series is kind of politically charged.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I was just because I was talking to you about Attack on Titan, and what you said you really hated it for being like not being this like intense like horror thing, and that the humans were fighting back and actually succeeding. And my thought was, no, this is more of a political drama, and the Titans are the outside force that's kind of keeping their system held together. And so the focus is probably going to more be on that. And so, yeah, I think the whole thing is extremely political.
Okay, well, that explains why people got mad at Aaron Yeager at one point.
Yeah, no, he does some pretty bad stuff. I kind of know what he does.
I just want to put that out. It might sound like I'm being ironic if he did something horrible. I don't know. I watched like 5 episodes.
He did do something horrible.
Okay, I'll take Chad's word for it. He's the biggest Attack on Titan fan I know.
Yeah. And he also did the thing. He did he has a like the Char at the end of Char's counterattack moment as well at the end that people weren't too happy about.
Mikasa could have been a mother to me.
He said something similar to that. Yeah.
You could spoil it. I don't care. Spoilers for Attack on Titan.
I'm not gonna spoil it. I don't see like I just see things. I mean, everybody see the image where he's like, I don't want Mikasa to love anybody but me, and he's like crying on the ground.
Oh yeah, and it looks really funny.
Yeah.
That guy's art is always a little wonky.
Yeah, I mean, works for the Titans, not so much for the people.
To tie this back to Tagashi, I've read the early parts of the Yu Yu Hakusho manga, and talk about inconsistent.
Well, yeah, that's part of his charm, I think. And maybe this is me relating to him as an artist. I never have a consistent style, but he always changes his style. Like every year or so, his style entirely morphs into something different. And that's something I've grown to appreciate because it means he can just on the fly flip to a style that best fits the mood. And I think a lot of artists are contained by that too much and can't really show what they want to because of that. Case in point, the 2011 Hunter x Hunter anime, which just was way too on model to be able to show things in like a super creepy way. And it always looked like a cartoon, which is what they started out with. So I don't think it really fit that well. And I think changing the style would have been better for it.
It reminds me of like what The Simpsons. What made some of those old jokes was that the characters could go off model.
Yeah, they looked goofy.
And they looked silly.
Yeah.
And now they stay on model so much, it's like even when it's, animated well, it's like, okay, but that wasn't funny. Like,
yeah.
I've been seeing people post for the last, I think, whenever that episode aired, but it's this animation of Bart riding a unicycle, and it's very well animated. I will call it Simpsons Sakuga. It's super well animated, and people post it and go, how can anyone say Modern Simpsons is bad? And it's like, because that's not funny.
Yeah, no, there's another clip where Homer was not talking like Homer would ever talk, but it was animated really well. I was like, well, I know the animation supervisor on that is, she worked on Hunchback of Notre Dame, so... she's all Disney.
I know the animation supervisor.
Yeah, no, we go way back. Yeah, yeah. When she was animating Frollo, I was like, I was there as a little baby, just being like, "Hey, good stuff," and just giving her thumbs up.
So yeah, I like that Yusuke could smoke. It's the one delinquent thing he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but later on, he's having trouble lighting those cigarettes up, and he just throws them on the ground. He just gets mad. He's like, and
they're like, okay, we can show him smoke once. But...
No, he was smoking in like a couple scenes. Like,
yeah, and then he got mad when he couldn't. He just keeps throwing cigarettes on the floor.
That's me when I can't smoke.
And plus, he went through his character development in like the scene after that, so I guess that means he stopped smoking.
No, he was still smoking in the Genkai stuff. He just couldn't get the cigarettes lit.
No, but that was before he went through his character arc at the Genkai thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's true.
Before he got the Spirit Wave Orb.
Spoilers! We didn't get to episode whatever that was yet.
Whoa, okay, let's go to episode 2 or whatever.
Episode 2, actually. So I wasn't sure how I felt about this at first. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was probably more negative. But changing Kuwabara to be blonde instead of red-haired, it feels like each character has a proper color identity.
Yeah.
And the anime definitely tried to do that. We've talked, before when we were watching it, I talked about how they made Yusuke green for the anime because they wanted to set him apart and give each of the characters like a Sentai Squad color.
Yeah.
And so they made Yusuke green, Kuwabara's blue. But then when he has that red hair, where Kurama also has the red hair, it's like, okay, well, those two kind of blend together a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty fitting. I guess his hair was more orange, not like he was a redhead, I guess, but orange was his hair color. But he also had the yellow spirit sword, which so I guess the change to a yellow hair would match a lot better.
But he doesn't have a yellow spirit sword anymore. So. They tried to make all spirit energy kind of the same color. So
Yeah, that part's fine.
I'm absolutely fine with that. I didn't have any problem with that.
Also, the hair was not too bad for Yusuke or Kuwabara, but it was pretty bad for Kurama and Hiei, I think.
Kurama has the most you're a cosplayer vibe.
yeah, he looks like he honestly looks better as Yoko Kurama, honestly, with the white hair. It looked more normal than the red.
I feel like they could have just like desaturated the color on their clothes and hair a little bit, and it would have been worked out fine. Except maybe Hiei, his hair is pretty stupid looking.
Yeah, Hiei looks weird.
Like I think with Hiei, it's more of like a this is the best we're gonna get without changing it.
I guess so. Like I felt like if they had just made it messy, because that was the impression that you're supposed to get from anime, right? It's like if it's sticking up everywhere, it just means it's messy.
I don't know if that's all.
I don't know either. I think that's just spiky. I think
he just had spiky hair, and it's just they kind of just like tubed him up. He just has it wrapped, and then kind of like how Hiei does, but he just looks weird.
I guess so, but I mean, just like with the anime logic in general, like not just Yu Yu Hakusho, but anime logic in general, I just assumed spiky hair that, you know, went off of gravity, like gravity doesn't affect that hair at all. I just figured it was because they just had like tufts that were sticking up all over the place. Like that's where it came from, right?
Maybe, I don't know. My hair's pretty thick and it sticks up like that when it's short.
Sticks up straight up like Hiei's does.
There's a funny picture of me as a baby where it looks like I have a fade and my hair's just sticking straight up like this, like a tube. And I'm sitting on my great grandma who's like, she's like a little tiny lady. I was a giant baby, so it looks photoshopped. I wish I could find that picture. Every time I go to my mom's, I try to find it. I can't, but it's the funniest picture. It just looks like a giant baby sitting on a little Mexican lady's lap. But my hair used to go straight up.
That's our canon reveal that Chad's Mexican, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. I just figured it would be kind of messy, but I mean, my hair's pretty thick. I can get it to stand up a decent bit, but it's just not sticking up in a natural way. Like it's very clear that it's more clear than normal that it was done by, you know, it was like has gel or something in it.
It's that demon hair. I mean the yokai hair. Sorry.
You can call them demons.
No, he's a yokai. That's what they said in the subs.
I was gonna say I wanted to shit on the dub a little bit more.
Go on.
I wanted to start by saying that I have brought this up countless times to people. The English dub for Yu Yu Hakusho does not differentiate between demon or spirit energy until the Sensui arc, when it was very relevant.
I feel like that's fine though. Like I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna argue with the dub because I think they made some mistakes. Absolutely. Like there's one in particular we agree on, which we can talk about later. But in general, I don't think bringing up a topic before it's relevant is necessarily the best way to go.
I would argue it could have been worked in earlier because during the Saint Beast arc, Yusuke. It's either Yusuke or Kuwabara uses life energy.
Yeah.
And so, like, knowing... You're supposed to already know at that point that there's different types of energy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that wouldn't have felt as much of a Deus Ex Machina if we knew, okay, well, we already know there's different types of energy.
No, it still would have been pretty Deus Ex Machina.
Still? Okay.
Yeah, John, it's like when they brought up chakra natures in Naruto. I mean,
in canon, it just doesn't make sense that all the demons call their stuff spirit energy, and then there you go, actually, it's demon energy. And then from then on, we're going to call it demon energy properly.
I guess. It never stuck out in my mind. It was just like, okay, there's a distinction. There are different types of spirit energy, is how I took it. It's just like it's fine. It wasn't relevant at the time. It was just energy. What's the point in like breaking it up for no reason?
How do you feel about them adding the word retarded 3 times in the dub? Which I've counted and know the exact episodes of.
Yusuke is supposed to be a rebel. You're supposed to have...
He is only one of the 3 instances.
Oh no. My logic is falling apart.
The other is a demon, and then the other is Kuwabara's sister.
That's all fair.
Those are all characters that I would say, yeah.
Yeah. It's fitting. It's all fitting.
Okay. So we're agreed. The dub is superior, actually.
Yeah. I'm seriously going to defend the majority of it. I feel like the difference between yokai and demon, I don't necessarily see the point of that. Ever since I learned that was a thing, I don't really see the point of it.
It's more so that just like yokai are a type of demon that in Japan, referring to them as yokai doesn't imply what it would mean to be a demon, which being a demon would imply evil. Yokai would just be apparitions. And I think in the dub sometimes they use the term apparition.
They do use the term apparitions, but I just don't... I don't see the difference because they still discriminate against... They're like, okay, these are anything... They like if you call Kurama a yokai or a demon at first, they still are assuming that that Kurama's a bad guy, and then they learn that he's actually a good guy. Like, what's the difference really in terms of story? It doesn't make.
See, I am one of those people that's like, if there's something like additional to the lore that I could have pulled from watching the subs, I need to watch the subs. Like
that's fair, but I don't think that's a knock against the dub, whose goal is to make it accessible. If you want to be a stickler for all the details, if you want to be, get really into the nitty gritty of the cultural implications of everything, you're not going to watch the dub in general. Like, well, the dub is meant for accessibility.
I was going to say the dub was all we had for a bit.
Yeah, but that was just the state of anime at that point. It wasn't nearly as big of an industry. So the dub was like the best we could get.
I can get that. That's kind of the impetus of a lot of like Carl Mason talks about that with Robotech, where it's like, well, we need to edit it for TV. Yeah, that's what we did back then.
You need to make it more accessible.
But it does bother me that people today are like, that's one of the best dubs. It's like, okay, let's pull it back.
It's one of the most fun dubs.
It's like, a fun dub.
Like you qualify best as accurate. I'd say the majority of people would qualify best as the most fun and the most memorable, and sticking out in that way. And I think Hakusho does that.
Hakusho.
Hakusho.
We're just calling it Hakusho.
We should call it what it was called in magazines in the 90s.
Ghost Files or whatever.
Poltergeist Report.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that in the Shonen Jump like monthly magazine that they published in America for a while. It felt like the magazine had an article about it, and it felt like they were testing out the different names.
Absolutely,
for a while.
I noticed that. Funimation, it seemed like as well.
Yeah,
because they always at first were always calling it Yu Yu Hakusho Ghost Files.
Yeah,
as if to see what name people latched onto.
Yeah, Poltergeist Report isn't a bad one, but it's a bit long, so I get why.
Yeah,
Ghost Files is a little generic.
Yeah, I was gonna say Yu Yu Hakusho has a weird ring to it that in English kind of resonates.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's kind of one of those things where, like, speaking of Jujutsu Kaisen again, isn't it just like sorcery school or something like that? Is what that means?
Sorcerer Wars or something. Tyson is war, actually. Kaisen.
Oh, yeah.
It helps for memory that it has like two of the same syllable in a row. Like repetition really helps with memory for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And then everyone fucking hates Demon Slayer. Everyone I follow hates that they call it Demon Slayer.
It's so generic.
Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Sorcery Battle, John.
Sorcery Battle, okay.
That's what I call it. We call it that in our household. But
Sorcery. We also call Urusei Yatsura those wacky invaders or whatever. Those obnoxious aliens. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess that's a problem if you're a Japanese reader. All the titles for all these cool shows are just so generic. That's my debate. That's why I think the Yu Hakusho dub is good. It's not accurate, but it sounds cool.
Right, and I just my issue is just people putting it on the pinnacle of something like dubs like Death Note. I think Death Note has one of the best English dubs.
Yeah.
I think Cowboy Bebop is one that everyone always goes to, and I agree. Very good English dub.
Yep. Right, episode 2 of Yu Yu Hakusho, though. Whoa.
We haven't even got that.
I know. Here's the thing. At this point, I'm kind of blurred what happened in what episode.
Episode 2 started with Goki and ended with the Kurama mirror stuff.
You're right. The Goki fight was great, though. I love that big CG monster they had him fight.
So I want to start off by saying that Yusuke is doing straight up fucking detective work.
Yeah, he kind of lucked into it, but I like that he's putting pieces together actively. Absolutely. Like, that is nice. And that it is a bit of a change. Yusuke is much less stupid in this version. I'm not 100% sure on that, but like of how much I like that. But
let Kuwabara be stupid.
I guess he's street smart. That's enough.
Yeah, and I like that they actually tied it in with the boy he saved.
That was perfect. I love the personal connection there.
That was so smart, and it's like because that boy never comes up. I love in the. I want to throw out this fun fact, but in the manga, it's most likely a reference to Captain Tsubasa.
It is absolutely one. Like, I didn't notice I didn't know it was connection.
So
but
yeah, in Captain Tsubasa, the soccer manga, Tsubasa as a kid runs into the street after a soccer ball, and he grabs onto the soccer ball, and when he gets hit with the car, because he held onto the soccer ball is what gets hit with the car.
it acts as a cushion.
It acts as a cushion so that he doesn't get injured from the accident, and he develops a lifelong love of soccer because of that, because he says that soccer literally saved his life.
Yeah.
And Yusuke Urameshi took it away from him.
And then
Yusuke saved a child who was holding a soccer ball who would have got run over by a car, and then Botan tells Yusuke that his death was pointless because if he didn't save the kid's ball would have acted as a cushion, saving his life.
Yeah.
It is exactly the same.
So in Yu Yu Hakusho, Tagashi is implying that he prevented Captain Tsubasa from happening. Now, I know that Tsubasa is also a Jump title, so I wonder how much he hated the Captain Tsubasa guy.
I don't know. I feel like that was a very friendly gesture to have like the crux of your first chapter hinge on a reference to another manga. I don't know. I think that's a sign of respect there.
What if he made another manga, and like, let's just say, I don't know, it's about rugby or whatever, but it opens up where he sees Yusuke jumping in front of the kid, and then he jumps and pushes Yusuke out of the way, but instead of a car, he gets hit with a giant rugby.
Well, I was thinking like he appreciates Yusuke's tackling power, and he's like, I want to tackle people. That sounds like
he's like,
that's a way to live.
He sees like an old lady trying to hail a cab, and he's like, I got it, and he tackles it. He's helping people.
And that's how he gets into football.
He literally says that it's an homage to Naruto, where he says, "That's my." They're like, you need to stop tackling old people, and he says, "It's my ninja wife."
Wow, this sounds like a great manga.
In the author's note, there's like, "Oh, this is a reference to Naruto." If you haven't seen it,
Translator's note. It's a reference to Naruto. You should go watch that. You might like it. I don't know. It's just like it's like those panels at the end of the Yu Yu Hakusho manga that are all text.
Yeah, they got rough at the end.
What happened in episode 2 of Yu Yu Hakusho?
He fought
Goki, and okay, I love that Goki's civilian look is like the most dumpiest looking man ever.
It's great. I love it.
He looks like a dude I'd ride the bus with. Like I could see this dude on the bus like making weird faces at me.
No, I think that's wonderful. Like, especially because he takes on this guys to not stand out. So it's like, yeah, let's have him just. If he looks like a pretty guy, I guess nobody would really care in the context of watching a show. But if he looked like a pretty guy in universe, people would be like, "Oh, that's a pretty guy over there."
He probably should have been holding that magic orb though, if he didn't want to stand out.
It was a pretty small magic orb.
Yeah, it was like orbing out or whatever. It had like a special effect on it. That's how Yusuke found him, is he saw the orb.
Yeah, I love before the fight when he shouts it's Orbin time.
Yeah, so I also want to talk about. So he uses the orb to absorb souls and then he eats them.
Yeah, orb souls. That's.
I remember
what
Tagashi had a panel explaining that. And then he underneath it says this is a reference to Naruto, but Naruto hadn't come out yet. So that was really weird that he said that.
Yeah, your kids are gonna love this
he
reference.
He says like, you're not ready for this, but your kids will love it. And that was a reference to Back to the Future. It came out before Back to the Future, which was weird. And then
okay.
So Goki's I'm kind of so like all the kids wake up, but like he definitely like ate a couple souls, right?
Yeah, he definitely probably.
I mean, the implication I thought, if you like, I guess this is a very generous thought I'm giving the show just to make sure that killing kids is kept to a minimum. But I thought he was storing all of them up. If he's going to eat them right away, why has he got so many in that little orb of his? Like, he's just like, yeah, he's just gathering a whole bunch so he can feast on them later, I guess.
You know, squirrels.
Yeah, exactly. He's hiding them away for the...
He's hiding them away for the demon winter.
Yeah.
And then he can eat them all so he can hibernate.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
It worked for me.
Did the Kurama stuff happen in episode 2 as well?
Yeah.
Yes. Kurama was watching over that whole fight, and so it was kind of like they were just trying to make sure they could lead into it as best they could.
Yeah, because I remember in the anime, he's walking down the street like all fucked up, and then he's like he passed Kurama.
Yeah, it was an issue where it kind of all felt disconnected. Like almost looking back, almost all of Yu Yu Hakusho is just entirely disconnected in almost every way. So it's really nice that they had all that connective tissue there. Kurama's watching over and is like, okay, Yusuke seems like a pretty cool dude. I'm going to trust him with this secret now.
And I will say the chapter with Kurama in the manga is like a really bad chapter. I stopped reading at the Hiei fight. And this was a recent read through. I just kind of wanted to get reacquainted with Yu Yu Hakusho for the show. But yeah, I was actually kind of shocked, like how it feels like Tagashi was kind of just rushing through it. Like he's like, all right, I know where I'm going. I just want to get done with this. I don't remember because we watched it a couple days ago now, and things just leave my brain. Did the mirror talk?
No.
Okay.
No, we were talking about
literally
it.
talking about how the mirror didn't talk. Surprised you didn't remember this conversation.
The mirror never lies.
Yeah, I never lie. The mirror may.
Yeah, because the whole thing with Kurama is that he wants to make a wish to, offer his life to bring back his human mother, to keep his human mother alive.
Yep.
The way the mirror works in the live action show, which is similar to it's the same in the manga, is that Yusuke offers his life as well, and so the mirror takes half of each of their lives and says that can count as one life.
Yeah, well, Yusuke kind of like presents that to the mirror as the option. Is like, take half of my life so that way you don't have to take half of his. And the mirror just kind of goes with it. In the manga, that's it. That's just how it ends. It takes both of their lives. In the anime, the mirror says, okay, because you were so chill, because Yusuke was so cool about it, I'm not going to take anything.
Yeah.
And it talks, which is weird. Interestingly, in the manga, it also talks, but it just says, whoa, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it says that was unexpected.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know what the point of it talking then was. So it is a lot more bittersweet, I guess, that half their lives are just gone now.
Yeah, and that's never acknowledged ever in the series again.
I mean, yeah, but it's also because they don't grow old in the comics, so you can't really tell. Yusuke living to 40 instead of 80,
Yeah.
No, he only lives till he's 16.
I mean, he does die pretty quick, so I guess maybe his lifespan was only a couple years. Spoilers for the rest of Yu Yu Hakusho, I guess, if you're waiting for the live action to get there.
I also think that it would have been cool, and this is, I really like Megumi Ogata as the voice of Kurama. I don't know why they didn't just get a woman and just say it's a guy. I thought that would have been cool.
I guess so.
Everyone's giving me looks like, John, you're stupid.
John, you can't even fucking see me. I can't see you.
No, I don't.
We're in a Discord call.
I mean, it'd be cool if that happened, but I'm not saying it's a sticking point. I'm not disappointed in any way that that's not it.
Idea.
It would be an interesting idea, but the way you because you mentioned it 3 or 4 times as we were watching it. Why isn't this a woman playing Kurama? It's just I don't think I'm not upset about
He
it.
just wants to fuck Kurama.
Why do you think I can't fuck Kurama if he's a guy?
Yeah, Chad.
Now everyone's looking at Chad.
Yeah.
Just can't fuck him. It's good.
You're kind of limited on your options, I guess at that point.
Not getting the full
What you don't understand is that men have a secret fourth hole.
Oh, the secret take.
The secret fourth.
So how about that episode 3?
No, I want to talk about the fourth hole.
All right.
So with Cat Dog, it's interesting. So what did happen in episode... Ben, tell me what happened in episode 3. I'm a little lightheaded.
Episode 3, there was a little bit of the Hiei stuff. Hiei got the Jiganai from the knife. Rather than the knife being a blade that turns people into yokai or demon things, whatever, it's a knife that gives him the Jiganai, which honestly is very fitting.
I had forgotten that that's what the sword does. I thought it was just a cool sword. He's gonna mount it over his bed or something. This is gonna look so cool.
Yeah, it's just a really nice sword. No, and in the manga and anime, he uses that to take Keiko hostage and turn a bunch of people into demons to fight Yusuke. And he's like, okay, if you don't beat me soon, I'm gonna turn Keiko into a demon. He's not very smart in his first appearance. So what they did is they took his later stuff where it's he went through this horrifyingly painful procedure to get his Jiganai to look for his sister. That was all explained near the end of the show. Instead they're okay, let's start the show with that because the excuse for why he couldn't find Yukina earlier with the Jiganai was that Yukina had talismans in her room preventing the Jiganai from looking for her.
It's very convenient and like
yeah, so it's like
why would you go through the trouble if it could be that easily thwarted? Like
so yeah, the show is just like, why don't we just give him the eye immediately before he finds her? Like
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely, I think that's a great change, and also like. What, like in the grand scheme of things, why did he want that sword so badly? Just to be a little troll, be a little menace.
Yeah, he's just a bad.
Cause
He's
a little trouble.
a little meanie bad guy. In his first appearance, that's what he is.
I do know that like Tagashi said he didn't intend Hiei to be a recurring character because when he loses, Yusuke like kicks him in the face, and it's it's really embarrassing. Tagashi said like that's really embarrassing, and I hope they don't put that in the anime. And they didn't.
Yeah, a lot of the fights really fall flat. Looking back at it, for early on, Yusuke just gets lucky a lot, and it's kind of like meant to be this like kind of goofy moment. But when you're ending every fight with a goofy moment of "Oops, I won," it doesn't really work out very well.
Yeah, Totally Not Mark has been reviewing the Yu Yu Hakusho manga.
Yeah,
and I've actually been glad because I know some people like to when they talk about those big name shonen titles, they just turn into a hype man where they're just like, this was awesome, this was so cool. And I was so glad that he was actually like, yeah, I'm not liking this and I'm like,
he said he didn't like it because he is kind of one of those hype men. He likes to talk up anime and give I'd say generously I'll say he gives them all the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, but
he's like, yeah, I didn't like how they ended the fight like this, and it's like, yeah, that's a really good insight. I really like that kind of stuff from him. And especially because he railed on the ending for a while, and apparently nobody understood that the manga's ending is different from the anime's.
I saw it because I'm not following him, but I am following Anime AJ, who helps him write.
Production of some sort.
And like, there were all the comments were like, why didn't you acknowledge this happening? Why didn't you talk about, you misrepresented this scene and that scene? And it's like, no, he didn't.
Yeah, I watched it not too long ago, and it's he like skims over the details a bit, but that's because that's what the manga does. Like he's like, oh yeah, and I guess Yomi had like a son who was meant to be bigger, but then he just ignored, and that's all he says about the son. And even though the son got like a full episode in the anime, he really did just appear for like half a chapter, and then was just like gone. It's just like, yeah, there's nothing to him.
Also, that also goes back to people, and we'll talk more about. I'm pretty sure I know the dub complaint that you're like, I agree with you on, but like, yeah, people are always saying like, oh, you should have reviewed the anime too, and it's like, he's reviewing the manga though. Like, what are you talking about? He has to interject his opinions on the anime when he's talking about the manga.
Well, to be fair, he set a precedent for that. He did it. I think he reviewed like bits and pieces of animes alongside the manga read. It was like, yeah, I'll read through the manga and then some of my friends will show me significant parts in the anime that differed from it or something like that. And I guess in the interest of fully understanding the Yu Yu Hakusho experience, I would have preferred if he read the ending of the manga and then was showed how the anime differed. I think that would have been better as far as just like a full review goes. But I still appreciate the fact that he really did stick with the manga and tried to understand what that was meant to be.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's wrong to criticize it that he didn't do anything wrong. Like
he said it. He said it up front. Like, I'm only talking about the manga for the ending.
Yeah, but I guess most people have only watched the anime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people, I always hear people say like, oh, Yu Yu Hakusho should get a remake like Hunter x Hunter, and it's like, no, it shouldn't. Don't do that. It's fine.
Yeah, I've been saying for so long, the anime did its absolute best to make it tie together as best they could, and it was a miracle that it came out as well as it did. And I've said like the team being allowed to like change up the style a little bit for very important moments, just having wildly different directors on very much matched Tagashi's style. The anime is so good with all of that. It would be really disappointing if it was given the Hunter x Hunter 2011 treatment where everything was extremely uniform and dry and followed the manga even to a fault. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think what people don't understand is like, if you want something that's accurate to the manga, you're going to get more Yusuke as a Ghost Adventures, and
which will be boring and nobody will want to watch.
Which none of you power scalers are going to like. And then you're going to get a final arc that's just a bunch of text on the screen. explaining what happened to characters. And then this character returned to their home planet.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, there's no final fight. It just cuts, and he's like, I lost.
There's 2 pages of Yusuke starting a fight with Yomi. The chapter ends. The next chapter is like 6 months later, and they're all talking about what happened.
Yeah,
That's it. That's literally it.
He was so mad at Jump. You can tell he was. You could tell he hated them by that point.
I don't think he hated them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone back to publishing with them. He could have gone to any other publisher, and they would have begged him to stay with them because he was so popular by the end. Or maybe not. Maybe Hunter x Hunter skyrocketed him more, but I don't know. It feels like he was established enough that he could have gone anywhere and been fine. I don't think it was necessarily Jump. It was just the whole manga industry and how demanding it was. And I'm pretty sure Jump just understood that, and that's why they gave him the leeway that he has with Hunter x Hunter.
That makes sense. What happened in episode? What episode are we on?
We didn't even go into 3. We got
Well, three is a bit muddy. I think that's all. They also went to Genkai at 3, right?
So yeah, 3.
3 is mostly Genkai, and then setting up the.
Okay.
Yeah, so episode 3 is where they go to. It's Genkai's introduction, and this was the episode that I was like, this is probably the weakest episode because they introduced Genkai. They only have 5 episodes, even if they're hour-long episodes. That's like we're halfway through already.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed. It really just feels like Genkai's a very incidental character rather than, part of the practically family to Yusuke by the end of the Dark Tournament.
Yeah. And so they do the training with Genkai, and everyone, that's when Kuwabara gets his spirit sword finally.
Yeah.
And I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, that part was good.
What else happened in that episode though?
Yusuke fights with Genkai rather than her teaching him a proper lesson about why he's training the way he is. Like, it started out with why isn't this more practical? And then she's like, well, what if you fought me? And then she beat him, and he's like, okay, I'll do that then. But it was at the end of episode 3 where Genkai also dies, right?
I think so. She died. She's
because the majority of 4 and 5 are the Turikine compound / Hanging Neck Island. Yeah, so she really just felt like an incidental character, though. Like, how are we supposed to feel that attached to her when she's like, she taught one good lesson, which is she's nice. She's like she's cool acquaintance at this point.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because it's like a well-established actress or something.
Well, and I wonder, you brought this up, I wonder if this was meant to be a movie, and then they got like a Netflix deal, and they're like, all right, let's just make episodes, because 5 is not a lot. Like, how much did One Piece get?
8,
10.
I think.
Or is it 8?
I'm pretty sure it was something around 8.
So it's like 8 1-hour episodes. Like, I feel like if they had introduced her episode 3, and we were going 8 episodes... Yeah, I could totally feel that attachment there.
Yeah, and I was also going to say is because I think the fight with Toguro really needed at least one more pre-fight where they didn't know what they were getting into. And in the manga and anime, he fakes his death to win a bet. And so it's just like, yeah, and then he comes back and you realize, oh, we didn't know
he
what
was just he was like messing around, like he didn't care.
Yeah.
When he's serious, he will fuck you up.
That's one thing I'll say, and I know we talk a lot about like the shonen meatheads and power scaling and all that stuff, but you gotta admit there's a lot of hype and excitement that comes with that, and Yu Yu Hakusho plays it off very well. I know calling out how much of a percentage you're using feels very trite by today's standards, but it's just cool for you to see that as a teenager and be like, okay, this is something exciting, this is something cool. And he really does build up Toguro quite well with it. Toguro defeats that demon dog thing at first. He completely destroys it, and he says he's like 20%, and then he fights the gang at 30%, and then he comes back and shows them 50%. He's fighting people in the Dark Tournament for a couple rounds, like whole teams by himself. Like he continuously just ramps it up continuously. Every time he's on screen, he does something cool. And in this one, in the live action, he just shows up at the end.
I mean, we see him kill Genkai, an old lady, which doesn't really
Yeah, it's meant to be a character moment before
he beats
before
a
all
big
else,
demon thing in one punch. So that's how they show his power. And
Yeah.
he goes, "It was only 30% of my power."
I'd say the only benefit is that it was live action. Because it's live action, things have a lot more impact and weight to them. Seeing an actual human crack the ground rather than a cartoon character does feel a lot more weighty.
Yeah, it's easier to convey that intimidation through live action.
Yeah.
Rather than a cartoon where, well, it's a cartoon. Couldn't anyone crack the ground? It's like...
Yeah. Yeah, we're used to Dragon Ball Z with blowing up planets. Like, it doesn't matter all that much. But still, I wish there was a bit more of a build up. I feel like Togashi does build ups for that stuff very well.
I can see that. And yeah, like I said, I don't think it needs 8 episodes, but even if we got like a 6th episode, I think that would be really good. That would really help.
Yeah,
a lot.
either that or like Genkai is more crucial from the beginning.
There was a point in episode 2 where you said like, oh, they're going to set up Genkai here, and
Well, they were setting up, like, because Kuwabara was feeling very guilty that his friends got hurt because of him, and I thought that was also a very great change that they made, because Kuwabara just shows up at Genkai's compound in the anime and manga. He's just like, I'm here now because I don't know, I want to figure stuff out about spirits.
yeah.
And in this, they're like, oh, my friends got hurt like 1 episode ago. I want to look for some way to get better so that doesn't happen anymore. It's a very good, like, another good connecting thread. Like, Yu Yu Hakusho, I keep remembering all this stuff, and it's just like all of it entirely disconnected. It's just like one thing happens after another.
Weekly manga happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. And Kuwabara's connection to his friends is like a really good motivation for him. I was actually kind of surprised they did it, but like Genkai she gives Yusuke the spirit orb, which in the anime and manga she doesn't give him until the Dark Tournament, and that's supposed to be like his big power buff to get him to the final round, basically.
Yep.
And I feel like they didn't really emphasize how important or much stronger to be a shonen meathead again. I would have liked to have seen like some sort of like, did she like cough up blood after she gave it to him or something? Was there anything to like signify like how much stronger he had gotten from receiving that?
Well, yeah, because Genkai, because she pointed at a rock, said blow this up, and he like did, but it was just a little rock. It was a boulder about the size of him, and then Genkai does it at her, and she transforms into her prime self, where she looks like she's 20. And she blows a hole throughout like the whole island. So it's like, okay, that's the difference in scale, and she's going to give that to him.
Okay, well that works. But like, I maybe it only felt a little stripped away because in the anime and manga, he has to go through like an insane trial of immense pain and torture after receiving it, and those are very memorable episodes of Yusuke screaming in agony in a cave
for a full episode. Yeah.
Those were Chad's favorite episode. I remember when Pooh is like grabbing water in his ears and trying to take it and waddle over, and Chad was just like, I hope it dies. I hope it falls over. And I was like, stop saying that. And he's like, no, I hate it. I want Pooh to die.
Yeah, that's me. I have an action figure of Pooh. I love Pooh. I call him shit. We're good friends.
I'm glad I now have a clip of you saying I love Pooh.
Purely isolated, yeah.
Oh no!
I made sure I didn't make a sound when you were saying that.
Yeah, I feel it does feel less impactful in the live action, because it's just like,
just needed one more episode.
Yeah, it really does.
I remember I thought it was going to be a movie, was what I was always...
You guys both kept gaslighting me saying the Yu Yu Hakusho live action
I thought
movie.
it was.
That's what I thought.
You keep calling it gaslighting. I thought it was.
Told from the internet, so they probably changed like partway through to making it a TV show.
I wonder. There's a lot of stuff in there though.
I feel like the action scenes seem pretty like high caliber for what it is.
But the thing is, the action scenes lasted so long. They wouldn't have filmed that much. They wouldn't have made sequences that long. There was like the first episode, I remember thinking this action scene is going on for a full 15 minutes. And it's just
I did think
first fight.
I actually thought, I would say they went on a little too long. I was like, you can shorten those down a little.
I don't think they're 15 minutes. Probably
the first fight was very long.
Yeah. I was gonna say the thing is that it's like one of those things where I feel like they did that fight and then they're like, we're making this a TV show. It's like, well, we got to do them all this way now.
I feel like they wouldn't have started a fight that long to begin with, though. But
3 also ends with Toguro going to Genkai, and they're meeting from the Dark Tournament, where they meet like in between. Where is it? Like around round 4 or so.
Yep.
Round between 4 and 5, I think.
Yep. Right before the fifth and final round.
Yeah, and so it really, that meeting had so much culmination in it, like,
or at least a little bit more. I don't know. It feels like the connection between Genkai and Toguro wasn't fully solidified until like round 3, maybe even 4. Honestly,
but it
he just came up with it right before. That's what it seems like.
Wait, did they really not imply they knew each other until that late?
Well, she came in as the masked fighter, so clearly there was a reason she'd want to hide her identity. So I guess he probably planned it from the beginning. But Toguro didn't like fully make any direct connection to Genkai, and still until he was like took the microphone during round 4 when she was fighting and talking about her in that way. I feel like that was like the first real connection that the anime or manga made between them.
Because he would have seen her during the second match in the Dark Tournament when her mask comes off and she's the young girl, and they're like, "That's not Genkai."
Yeah, I don't remember her reacting. Him being there to react.
Which
to her.
That's the version of Genkai he would most recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that either. I feel like the Genkai. From what I remember watching this like 15 years ago or whatever, I felt like that I was like, oh, they know each other? That's weird. When I was watching it with my sister like back in the day.
Yeah, but still, even though it was like one round beforehand, it was still that much that we had, you know? It still set up something. Like it didn't set up and conclude their arc all in a 5-minute segment of the live action.
Yeah, where that's the end of the episode is that he just goes ahead and kills her there.
Yeah, and I guess that is a complaint, but overall, I still like that they streamlined a character arc down to something smaller, because yeah, it kind of does make it seem like there's this big middle of Dark Tournament where no character development's really happening. It's just meant to slow things down. So I guess I am glad in that way that they're like, let's finish character arcs rather than just tell what story beats.
Yeah, so like the second and third rounds are like what like is there anything happening character-wise there?
Yeah, not really.
The first round you can at least say like Hiei uses Dragon of the Darkness Flame, and that is like a big thing for him like throughout the whole tournament from then on.
Yeah, it makes me think there should have been one extra fight in there somewhere. Because, like, him using it on Bui for the first time just means, like, okay, there's no setup to this. It's just the payoff.
That's right, yeah. In the live action, he uses it for the first time on Bui. And, like, not only that, but, like, in the anime and manga, they do, like, it looks like he fucked up his arm real bad in the anime.
Yeah, so I think that's my main issue now that we're talking about it. My main issue with the live action is that it only does the payoffs, doesn't do the setups. The setup for the dragon thing is that he uses it in the first round and messes up his arm. You realize, oh, this is really bad. This is dangerous. And then the payoff is that he's able to use the dragon to, like, I don't know, buff himself, I guess is what it comes to. I don't know if there's any character arc to that, but that's still the setup and payoff for the power.
He's at least building on something that was pre-established.
Yeah. And especially with Kurama, because I do like that they just like made him closer together, where they reveal he used to be a fox demon and then he becomes the fox demon to fight. Yeah. But there should have been a middle step of setup where it's like, what are the consequences of this?
Yeah,
is he able to do this at will?
Yeah,
all
why
this
doesn't
stuff.
he then? Yeah, just a throwaway line like I like in between the Karasu fight, he can just like offhandedly mention that it's like, yeah, I can turn into my demon form, but I don't know, I don't like it. It kills me. I don't know, some excuse.
Yeah, and again, the other thing is that this is the fighting Toguro and his team was the first time the team was together. This is their first real fight, which really lessens the stakes, I think. If they had one fight before this, just one even, where they all kind of got together as a team, they all kind of got the chance to set themselves up, and then the payoff was the Toguro fight, I feel like that would have worked out.
Yeah, like they do in the anime when they fight the Saint Beasts. Am I right?
You're right. They should have put in at least 2 episodes, and they could have fought all the same piece.
Yeah, I don't know if it should have been the same piece or whatever. I don't care. I honestly don't care.
Get one of the teams from the Dark Tournament and just be like, oh, we hired them as guards or whatever, and they have to fight those guys.
Yeah, and then they're an uneasy team for that one episode. Genkai is helping them out or whatever. They do all their setup for stuff. Like, one of the guys is like, well, why aren't you Yoko? And I was like, I can't do Yoko. It's scary.
Yeah, honestly,
and then
it
would
is
have been
just
paid
like
off.
one. It feels like it's missing one episode. Like, also a 5-episode show. Who's heard of that?
I don't know. Are you referencing something?
No, I'm just. It's usually 6.
You said it in like a used car salesman voice.
I'm sorry. I'm
Who's heard
Brian
of-
McLaurin today.
Who's heard of that? And then you're
pointing.
and then you're pointing to another 5-episode show we're supposed to know.
No, there's no other 5. That's what I'm saying. What 5-episode show exists? There are always 6 at the minimum.
I feel like it would have been better.
It should have been 6. I agree. I think we're all in agreement. Well, I'll send my angry letter to Netflix, and
That's why I think I feel like they weren't sure if they were making a movie or a show.
Yeah. They go to Tarukane's stronghold. Yukina is...
Well, it's technically Hanging Neck Island.
Elder Toguro, my favorite character.
Yeah,
they made a little
really
tiny man, and he's running around. I can't believe they found a guy so small.
And as for his character involvement, I will say there was like a tiny side story where Yukina had one of the guards try to rescue her, and that was in the live action. But he was just the guy tried to rescue her, but just got caught and shot up. I like that it was Elder Toguro that did that, because that means Kuwabara, who directly wants to save Yukina again, is going against the same exact guy as personal stakes again, which I really
absolutely. I didn't even think about that. You should have said that while we were watching it.
I wanted to save it for the podcast. This is entertainment.
You weren't thinking about that? You need to watch stuff better. You need better media literacy.
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought that was really nice. They're making all these choices to make the stakes more personal, and it was really nice.
Yeah, I like that. It just needed that one. They just needed one more episode where they're like a team.
Yeah, and so they all join forces and they go to Tarukane's compound. And at this point, we're on episode 4.
Hanging Neck Island, technically.
Hanging Neck Island, yeah. They turn the island from the Dark Tournament into Tarukane's castle, basically.
Yeah, they merged them together, basically.
Yeah, and so that's where you have your final round from the Dark Tournament, where each of the 4 gets paired up against one of the Team Toguro guys.
Yep.
I will say, during episode 4, that's the one I'm probably least remembering, because I was very tired. I wasn't falling asleep because it was boring. I was falling asleep because it was like midnight when we were watching it.
Yeah, that's another thing that I really would have liked set up for. They had Karasu, destroying, having those bombs that are basically invisible. Mm-hmm. It would have been nice to see him blow someone up without any idea of what happened to them. Would have made him a lot more intimidating. Same with Bui. He could have just killed a guy, because his whole point is a huge axe, but he swings it around as fast as like a dagger. And so it'd be nice if he just like decapitated someone super quick, even though he's holding this clearly...
Literally just take the line from the anime where Koto from the Dark Tournament says like, his enemy's too close. There's no way he could swing it in time. And then he does it anyway.
Yeah. Again, that's something that you could just squeeze in super quick. And now Bui's a character with a big axe. That's it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I much prefer them just being like, we're blowing our load. We don't know if we're getting another season. Because I'm just thinking about that Saint Seiya, where it is like, we're getting nothing.
I'm not saying like hold out and for another season. I just wish they had like one more episode.
Literally one episode.
What?
Yeah, because the one thing I am really glad at is, even though they made all this connective tissue, which a lot of adaptations tend to do, but they tend to do it with like teasing future things. And I'm glad it wasn't that. They instead spent all their connective tissue on making sure that the whole experience of season 1 was better.
That's like a major benefit, is that like with a lot of those anime movies, especially the American ones, it feels like they'll show you scenes that were probably done out of obligation, and then the connecting to those scenes are just like garbage, that it's just like what and then whatever happened, so they decide to do this.
Yeah. I also, with that episode 4 stuff, I was talking a little bit while watching it that it seemed like Kurama wasn't doing too much strategy stuff. I really liked that he was able to use his whip to like fly around. I love mobility stuff like that.
Spider-Man moves.
Spider-Manning around. But he did do a little bit of smart tactical stuff towards the end of the fight, so it was like fine.
I was really, because like I think one of the most iconic things is I was expecting him to do the seed of the death plant, where it's like he intentionally implants himself with the seed. And then lets his opponent, like, how does it work? Where he stabs him, but then it like grows out of that. Yeah,
that's again another thing that just because it wasn't set up, they couldn't do both. It's either because the setup is putting in the opponent, it kills the opponent, and then the later payoff or subversion, I guess, is that he puts it himself and uses it to attack his opponent. And because they didn't have a setup episode, they had to just do the first version of it. Mm-hmm. And it's also weird. I noticed, like the plant like shot out of him in the same way it does in like the anime and manga, but it also blooms really. It blooms flowers, and it was like, oh, a really bad guy, really pretty flowers. How ironic. It was weird that they were so accurate with how it exploded out of him, but didn't include the flowers part.
It has a little bit of flowers on it.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, they had it on the top.
They were like unbloomed flowers.
I guess so.
So now, everyone's favorite character, and by everyone I mean Chad's Elder Toguro.
Love that guy. He got that Resident Evil tech. He looks like a Resident Evil villain.
He does look like a Resident
They're
Evil
using
character.
tech from other stuff. They're getting Stranger Things tech for all these demons.
I was gonna say I will say there's some shots where if it's just him in the frame, I forget that he's a tiny man, and then if they zoom out or incorporate another character, like you just see the scale, and it's like, oh wow, he's like shrunken down a bit.
No, he's very shrunken down. Honestly, John, I'm surprised that you think that, because I feel like every shot they're like, we want to show you how tiny this fucking guy is. You look at him on this big couch. Look at him. They always have objects.
I just thought Sakio had a big couch.
Yeah, Togoro's just like 30 feet tall next to his. I remember Toguro was just like.
Yeah. It felt like Tagashi forgot how small Elder Toguro was at some point.
Yeah, but this show is like, they love showing up. I wonder if they did Hobbit tech. They did that good old Hobbit tech, or they just were like, oh, we're just gonna green screen this guy.
I mean, you could tell they really liked how small he was, because he kept flying around the walls like a gremlin. It was great.
He was like crawling on the ceiling, being a weirdo. He was that was my favorite part. I'm so glad that he's in the next arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, that he'll be around.
Yeah, I guess that was the post-credits Avengers moment.
Jump to the last episode, but yeah, there's an after the credits. Elder Togoro's head, which in the manga and anime was retrieved by Sensui, right?
Yeah. So in the manga and anime, it really was just like it was raining. That was the only difference. I don't care. But his head was just like a mess, and that's all that was left of him. And then a shadowy figure approaches him. Who could that be? And there's like some allusion to that he's wanting to continue Sakio's plan. So I figured it was just like that scene exactly. But I feel like it's enough of a tease to just say Elder Togoro's alive. Who knows what that could happen there?
He's getting eaten by a CG seagull.
But I will say, in the first episode, Koenma says your predecessor to Yusuke when talking about Spirit Detective.
Yeah.
So they did set up Sensui basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that there would be a predecessor, because there's such like an establishment in place for a spirit detective already. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that reminds me, I forgot to bring up. Botan doesn't say bingo.
Yeah, she doesn't say ping pong.
Kuwabara said bingo.
Kuwabara said it. Yeah.
Kuwabara did say bingo.
Yeah, Botan had much less of a role because of Kuwabara saying bingo.
Yeah,
no, it felt like they wanted to focus more on.
I mean, Botan really doesn't have much of a role in the story.
I mean, that is something that like the anime does better, is that we get to see Botan in a bunch of different outfits, and it's like we got to see there were no different outfits. It was just the pink kimono. Yeah,
Botan was kind of the mascot character. The dress up.
They made her the chopper.
Yeah. It was like Pooh was kind of meant to be the chopper, but never filled that role.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like they gave Koenma more stuff to do, and then they're like, "Sorry, Botan, get the hell out of here."
Yeah, it feels like they only did. I like that they
honestly,
only did.
I felt like Yukina did more than Hiei.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird how they separated stuff, and also I feel like the beginning of the Toguro fight in the last episode, great, and then it kind of devolves when he becomes a CG monster.
I guess so.
He just kind of stands around when people attack him, but I wish there was more like punchy stuff going on, because there's stuff
feel
in
like
that
that
fight
would've
when
looked
it's
bad.
a real guy. I thought it felt like they were like, Goki, we're testing out this tech of having a big CG guy. So at the end, I was like, oh, they did it so well in this fight, they're gonna go.
I guess so. It made. I personally feel like it made the two halves of the fight feel distinct. There was the actual like choreographed fighting, all that cool stuff, and then there was the immovable wall of just pure power. You don't need to. He doesn't even need to move to knock you away. It's fine.
Yeah, and I will say, so Elder Toguro is actually the one that reveals that Genkai's dead, which is like, doesn't he reveal it to Kuwabara only?
He reveals it to Kuwabara,
But everyone else knew
and the
and didn't
problem
say.
with it, and the problem with him saying all this was that Yusuke knew, and he wasn't telling anyone.
Yes.
And that does definitely change the meaning of all that.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, and this bugged me when we watched it, is that when the younger Toguro punches the fuck out of his brother, which does happen in the anime.
Yep.
But in the anime, he calls her a whore and said that he wanted to have sex with her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, no shit, he punched the shit out of his brother for saying that. In the anime, or in the live action, he just kind of says like, Genkai's dead. She was an idiot. And then he punches her and he's like, don't you mischaracterize me.
Yeah, it was
Like,
it was very watered down. The impact wasn't quite there.
Yeah,
like you
he's
can
like
kind
a
of
little
tell
freak,
that
too. I would love if he said something horrible.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
You can kind of tell that was the intention they were still going for, is that like Toguro still had some respect for Genkai, and that's why he got mad that his older brother
Yeah.
was doing all that.
but he went way harder in the anime.
Yeah, but the older brother really just like stepped over a line in the anime. So yeah, it was definitely less impactful for this version.
Yeah.
But the actual fight, I think in general, it worked out pretty well. 100% really didn't look all that bad. And I think the reason he did move around as much is to keep it that way.
Yeah, I get that. And that, I will say, I think now that we've got there, we can say my big issue with the dub is there is a line where they changed Togoro's percentages.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple mistakes early on that are just them, like, clerical errors when typing the scripts.
Yeah,
But,
to make sure this is clear, unless you want to say it.
I was just going to say that, like, in the final fight, Toguro goes, in Japanese, he goes 100%. Mm-hmm. But then, after that, he goes, what he says is 100% of 100%.
Yes.
Implying that he is sort of going beyond what he thought was possible.
Yes.
And basically saying that fighting Yusuke is making him even stronger than he thought he could be.
Yes.
In the dub, this was changed so that his 100% is said to be...
Well, he does say 100% when he first transforms into his 100% form. What happens later then, when he's going 100% of 100%, he says, I lied to you before. What I said was 100 was actually 85.
Okay. And so he goes, and then this is 100%.
And now this is the real 100%. Which, yes, we both agree, very bad dubism. Definitely just meant to be like, okay, you're pushing me for the first time.
Yeah.
And I looked it up in my version of the manga right before we started this because I wanted to make sure. He says 100% of 100% in Viz. But one addition I liked is that in the chapter before he does that, he says, okay, sometimes I do fight people at 100% if they're really like honorable and stuff. But you were the first person to make me raise my threshold. And that was like the explanation proper. Mm-hmm. And I really liked that way of wording it.
I just love Elder Toguro. They should just make a whole show with a little guy running around.
I will say it might have. I don't know if this was a dub line, but I do remember, and I'll give the dub this. If this was a dub line, I liked it. Is Elder Toguro telling Kuwabara, "Mother always wanted me to be a surgeon," and when he's gonna cut him, and then Kuwabara saying, "Well, my mom always wanted me to be an exterminator."
Yeah, that was definitely a line. I don't know if it was dub exclusive, but it was good.
I just love that little freak. I love when they make guys tiny and stuff. I need to watch Lord of the Rings again. I love when they make
It's not that I liked his character. It's just that he was so tiny.
He was so tiny, and I love that they were. I wonder if they did do any like Lord of the Rings tricks on some of that stuff where like forced perspective.
But yeah, speaking of it,
They used a lot of digital doubles, but for some reason the digital double of Elder Toguro looks so great because he's like moving around all weird, and they're like, oh, this is a perfect character.
well, it's clear they had the actor like be the basis for all of that, and so it was just like it definitely wasn't the ground up. It was always just him. But it reminded me of a scene where Elder Toguro disguises himself as Hiei in the live action to kidnap Keiko, which another good thread there. It's like way to make sure that they're not just going on some random mission. It's personal stakes. But I also like it was just like. It's funny that Hiei said, "No, I would never kidnap someone. That's beneath me." Even though that's how he was introduced in the anime. That's really funny.
I love that little phrase. I'd watch a whole Elder Toguro show where he's just standing next to big guys and he's a little guy.
You know how like sometimes dads will be weird and they'll just be like. They'll like something really weird and you don't understand it.
Is that what you're accusing me of loving little guys?
Yeah, this is like, my dad fucking loved talking animal movies. And he's just like I remember my dad taking me to the theater to see like Chicken Run and Racing Stripes and being like, this is going to be so good. Like my dad just wanted to see talking animals in movies.
Yeah,
and
dads have had a lifetime of figuring out just the right thing that's really nifty.
I really appreciate how out of their way they're like, this guy is so tiny and we're going to show it in every shot that he's in.
It's great. It is
a little tiny guy.
We just like that you appreciate it so much.
It's the best special effect in the whole. He's like the best special effect in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like even his like weird Resident Evil like arm things is like, and that stuff looked really good. Like all of his gross weird stuff, or him getting chopped in half and having to put himself back together. It's like all the best special effects are all dedicated to this one little man.
Yeah. Another thing I'm thinking of, Yukina. I'm glad that Kuwabara's fake death felt less random. I mean, in the manga and anime, Toguro stabs him through the chest, but then he just happens to be alive, and it's explained that Toguro meant to miss his vital organs, which is fine, but Kuwabara just seems really, like, chipper after that. After getting stabbed, and it just kind of doesn't make sense.
You should still be hurt, bro.
Yeah, you should still be really bad shape. But at least in this, it's like they justified a bit more by having Yukina being directly tied to it again, personal stakes tied together again, where Yukina showed to heal Keiko a little bit. She has healing powers, set up, paid off with healing Kuwabara at the very end. It really works.
I think that's a reference to the Yu Yu Hakusho The Dark Tournament video game, where one of Kuwabara's powers is called Power of Love, and he can use that power to heal or regenerate.
Wow.
And it is because of Yukina.
You're right. That's a reference to the video game only. That must be it.
Exclusive to the video game.
We also noticed at that scene that there was a bit of an issue with the subtitling or translation or whatever dub titles.
I was noticing all the way through. I don't know if it's I haven't checked enough of the dub to see if it's dub titles. It was accurate enough that I was like, oh, that's not entirely different. But there were some lines where it's like, okay, I know enough Japanese to know that's not exactly what he said. Yeah. In that specific Yukina scene, that's where it stood out the most because Yukina says, "I love you guys."
Yes. In the subtitles, she said, "I like you guys." And it was meant to be, as far as I can tell, it was meant to be kind of ambiguous, just saying, "I love you," and you're not sure if the "you" is plural or singular.
Yeah, Kuwabara or you, as in like
all of you.
All of you.
Yeah. And so Kuwabara has that goofy smile on his face, thinking, "Oh, this girl just told me she loved me."
Yeah,
yeah. So it's just like, yeah, that's what it was meant to be, and it could have just simply been like, "I love you" in the subtitles because she looks around at everyone first,
yeah,
and you can be plural, so it's just like, "Yeah, I love you." So it would have been great, yeah, but no, they just had to make it
the subs
weird.
Just say, "I like you guys."
And then Kuwabara is weirdly happy.
Yeah, he's really excited.
Which, like, in the manga and anime, when she says, "No, I think humans are cool," he's just like, "Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you don't hate everyone." And that was like a kind of like somber moment almost. It was like just this like calming, like, okay. But no, it was clear by the way they played it, they wanted it to be like a misunderstanding.
Also, Yusuke referring to Genkai as Basan, which I believe means grandmother or granny.
Probably.
and they just put it as master, which is like, it's not like, that's fine, but like,
that does change their relationship a little bit.
Changes it a little bit.
Yeah, because it's meant to be like, yeah, the banter of like, you know, hateful speech, but they still like each other, that kind of thing. But it's also just like, yeah, she kind of was a mother figure to him, so just like it all ties together very well. But him just generically calling her master misses the point of all that.
Right, and it's still a term of respect, but it's a different relationship. So
yeah. But then again, the live action really didn't make her mother figure.
They really didn't do anything personal together.
Yeah.
Overall, though, from episode 1, I was shocked at how much I liked it, and I felt I liked it all the way through.
Yeah, lots of complaints, but that's because it was good enough to complain about. It was very solid.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through looking for things we don't like, as opposed to the Death Note, where I'm sifting through looking for things I like to find.
Well, Death Note, like, especially with shows like that, it's just like, let's just get through this. We know it's bad. Like, we know we're not enjoying it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not fun to talk about the obvious stuff that's not good with it. But it's fun to talk about this stuff because it's like, it's fun to note all the little changes in two things that we like. It's really
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah, honestly, I'm interested as they get another season because I feel like the Chapter Black stuff would be more conducive to a TV show and not like this. We kind of have a narrative thread and we're piecing it together and we're only doing the big fights without having the.
And honestly, like Chapter Black is so much more cohesive as an arc that it would be much easier to adapt with changing much less.
Yeah, Chapter Black felt like Tagashi's like, I know what I'm going to do with this arc, so...
It only changed at the very end in the final fight.
What was the change?
Well, the whole thing was kind of meant to be about, like, Yusuke learning how to think things through rather than just fight blindly. Like, that's kind of the whole arc. And also just, like, the value of humanity and stuff like that. But then at the very end, Yusuke is just saying, I don't care whether you destroy everything, I just want to fight you. And that's kind of what happens. and he does a setup for the next arc where Yusuke becomes a demon, and they kind of like he tries to do the thing where you blur the boundaries between what's good and bad, but that's all set up for the next arc. It doesn't conclude this arc, you know?
I mean, they kind of set that up in this show. Yusuke might become a demon like me.
Yeah.
Is like what Tagoro says at the end. So I was like, oh, they are setting up that they are using that as a narrative through line.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, that's a good narrative through line. It's just that's not what the whole arc preceding it was about. Is kind of what, But that arc as a whole can be pretty much 1-to-1, or at least, you know, like just taking 1 or 2 characters out, you'll be fine.
You did remind me of another dub thing. First of all, I wanted to point out that Itsuki's voice actor in the dub is very bad.
Okay.
I will say, worth noting, a lot of the Chapter Black voice actors are bad because Funimation was actually running out of voice actors for the show. Because
they have Steve Bloom to just be everybody.
No, they had a much more limited pool, but they were cycling through all the Texas actors throughout the Dark Tournament.
Yeah.
And so by Chapter Black, they were having people double up on roles. And they would actually, for the Blu-ray, go in and actually redub some of the characters entirely to get around this because it was of lower quality.
Okay. Cool.
Even, in fact, they actually got the guy who voiced Seaman to come back, and he just redubbed all of his own lines because his performance was pretty bad.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember it being all that bad. But
I remember
that's the Blu-ray.
Being pretty bad when I was watching it when I was like 14. Or no, not 14.
Because I didn't see the anime proper until later. So
yeah. And also another dub change. Itsuki is the worst voice actor in that, and I believe it's. I've watched it recently on Crunchyroll. It's still bad. But also, they did make Kuwabara a little homophobic.
Yeah.
Which I thought was worth pointing out.
He feels like the character that kind of would be. like not maliciously but
just like, oh, whoa.
Because the topic kind of scares him, you know? He's so straight that he's like one of those types of characters, you know?
Yeah, because the line, it's that it's Itsuki talking about how he mentions that he loved Sensui. And Kuwabara in the dub is like, well, I'll say this, in the sub, his reaction is, how can I trust anything you're saying?
Yeah.
As if, like, I don't know if I believe your story. Mm-hmm. But in the dub, he just goes, I don't think I want to hear this, guys.
Man loving another man? I'm not going to get into that. So it's a little homophobic, but not coming
It's
from a
not
place of hate.
malicious. That dub does have stuff that's of its time.
Yeah.
I will admit I like Yusuke when they get told that for round 3 of the Dark Tournament, they're going to have to go through a physical exam, and anyone who can't pass is going to be disqualified from that round. And Yusuke says, well, fine, as long as he doesn't grab my balls and make me cough. And then the doctor comes out, and it's the sexy lady with the wires. And he just goes, scratch that.
Yeah, that's great. Although he does have that very lovely transphobic scene in the Tarukana
That's
compound.
in Japanese as well, though.
Yeah, but that's I'm not just complaining about the dub.
No, I'm just saying that's
No,
not
it's not you were talking about the dub, but I'm talking about the show.
Yeah.
The show was very of its time in that way too. Which is very funny because he gets very nuanced in Hunter x Hunter with transgender
it's almost
things.
like he got married.
He got married to a lady who did that.
To a lady who's very into gender issues. Yeah, yeah. That's that was. You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm kind of glad they didn't include that in the live action.
No, I was really disappointed. They had the hallway where that happened.
Yeah, they did.
They just didn't do this. They didn't do the scene. They got the hallway and they just didn't have it happen. And I was very disappointed. I was like, "Where's the transphobia?
Yeah, where's the trans person that Yusuke calls out for being a coward?"
Where he's looking around, and I'm just like, "Where's
the transphobia? This is what I watched this for. This is what I'm waiting for. This is the best part."
Yeah,
like, we need to bring this back.
That is kind of interesting that they it's kind of nebulous what time this takes place in. Like, it's so clearly like late 80s, early 90s for Yu Yu Hakusho, but they don't include any cell phones or anything, but they also don't include anything like any like VHS tapes or anything like that in this, as far as I'm aware of.
It's almost like, some might say the city's a character.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't have to talk because Kawema's just talking to him through his brain.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess the mirror kind of looks like an iPad. That was the closest we got.
I did think it was going to be an iPad. I will say.
No, mirrors are rectangular. It's fine, but
it was a black mirror.
Whoa. Is that a reference?
Yeah, it's funny because I know in the dub they call it the Forlorn Hope, but in this they just call it the Mirror of Darkness.
Yeah.
Like the dub.
I wonder if they fancied up the name.
Yeah, they just fancied up the name for the dub. Dub also calls fucking Suzuki Suzuka because they were like, it sounds too much like a car. He's not a car, he's a clown.
They're different.
They're different. I found out that because we've talked about this before, you and me, about how they did go back and redub the Suzuki Suzuka thing so that his name would be Suzuki.
Yeah, and I think the card game called him Suzuku.
Yeah,
so he had 3 different names.
Yeah, but it's funny because I actually found out they missed a couple lines. So in the redub, in the Blu-ray version, he is called Suzuki, but there's a couple instances of characters calling him Suzuka that are left in.
That's funny.
That's so Funimation pilled.
I can't think of much else I want to talk about with the show. Oh, wait, no, there is. One more thing. I'm sorry.
One more thing. Hiei and Yukina meeting at the very end. The scene was played almost straight from the anime, except he gives her the necklace with like the crystal tear thing on it, which belonged to her long lost brother, as she said. In the anime and manga, she's just like, I'm looking for my long lost brother. And she's like, okay, who are you now? And he's like, oh, I'm just a friend of theirs, while he looks over at them. That's the same as in the live action. But then he like gives her the crystal tear that should belong to her long lost brother and says, I'm not your brother, but I have this heirloom that your brother would have. And that's it. They don't elaborate any further. Yeah, it was a little rough, a little patchy there.
Yeah, the thing is, he does do that later in the show where he's like, I think he has Kurama pass it along to her. And he says to Kurama, tell her that I found the brother and that the brother is dead. That way she doesn't look for me anymore. And it's like, okay, that's something. So I figured when he took it out and said, no, I found this on your brother's corpse or something like that, I figured that's what he was going for, but he just didn't elaborate. And it's just like, it was very weird.
Kind of what he was hinting at, that I'm not...
I don't know.
It's weird that he didn't say it, though. It would have been very easy to just say.
Like, I think the show wanted him to be more like...
I think they wanted to make it nebulous if they do another season.
I think the show wanted him to be more like Hiei is just basically telling her that he's her brother without having to say it out loud, which I think is just very weird.
Mm-hmm. This is something I didn't know, is that, like, I always forget that Hiei is technically considered a fire demon.
Yeah, I think so.
Which would explain, which makes sense. He uses Dragon of the Darkness Flame.
Yeah.
And then, you know, his sister is an ice demon, so they're like parallels, kind of.
Yeah, because it's like she's born from a village of only women, but because one of the women went out and had sex with a man who was maybe a fire demon, I don't remember exactly. That's how he was born as well.
You know so much more about Yu Yu
Yeah,
Hakusho.
you know more than anyone.
I told you, I said from the very beginning, I practically went through the show frame by frame.
Yeah,
all right,
'cause he's Lanny Pator, yeah.
that's
By the
because
way,
that's
if you want
who
to
I
get
am.
better at making a bridge series, Lanny Pator has an excellent video. It's called Lanny Answers Questions 4, and he will tell you the worst fucking way to do everything. No joke, he has a Logitech headset mic, which he uses to record his dialogue.
Good.
He gets his footage by playing the episodes on a PlayStation 2 and capturing it with a video game capture card.
That's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how the pros do it.
So pros, yeah. That's how you.
And then
that's how you get the clean.
That's how they get stuff onto Netflix.
And then he dumps it all into his editing program, which is Pinnacle Studios, which is
the best.
historically the worst editing software.
No, they edit movies with that. Didn't you know? You know that's how they edit.
They make Marvel movies with Pinnacle Studios.
Yeah, that's why you see the little watermark in the corner. They only have the file version.
Pinnacle Studio cost $50 and is worse than Windows Movie Maker.
I had the free version of that called Video Spin, and you couldn't render a 10-minute video properly with it without the sound getting desynced from the video. So when I had to render stuff with it, I had to render things in like 3-minute chunks and then take the rendered files and put them in a new file and render all that together.
Did it also do editing the way Windows Movie Maker does, where instead of giving you the footage on a timeline, it breaks it up into clips?
No, like that's the reason I never went to Windows Movie Maker first, is because I didn't like the timeline approach.
Yeah. If you don't know video editing, like we're kind of big.
I totally forgot that's how Windows Movie Maker did it.
Oh,
I made
yeah,
many Windows Movie Maker things that it's like gone from my memory.
I made so many Dragon Ball Z AMVs, but didn't everyone?
I made a Family Guy AMV that got like 5 million views on YouTube.
And you're rich now, right?
Yeah, I'm rich. I got all the money
good.
off of that.
Good. I was afraid for a second.
That's one of the first videos I ever made. I was like, well, it was like
I was
right
like
when YouTube
22.
came out. Yeah, 22. When did that was 2005? So, oh man.
If you had made that like 2 years later when YouTube started giving money for straight views rather than like watch time and
they
stuff.
got copyright and taken off of YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was gonna say he did use the Mortal Kombat theme, which
No, it wasn't Mortal Kombat. It was Prodigy Smack My Bitch Up.
I am pretty sure the version you showed me had the Mortal Kombat theme.
No, it was
the Mortal Kombat theme to like Peter fighting the chicken.
No, it was Smack My Bitch Up by The Prodigy. You might just think that sounds like a Mortal Kombat song, because it does. But it's Smack My Bitch Up.
Okay, I think you're gaslighting.
No, I'm not! Why are you gaslighting me? I remember the AMV I made.
no, I remember what you
I remember it
created,
got like
Chad.
1 million views as a kid. Or like, it was like, I remember seeing it had like 500,000 views, and I was like, this video did poorly.
Dude, I just raised my head up, and it's so much more entertaining to see Chad's face when I'm gaslighting him.
That's all he ever does. He just loves gaslighting me. It took very long in this podcast for it to happen, but it happened.
We knew if we recorded for a long enough episode, it would happen eventually.
The massive gaslighting would happen.
It happens every 2 or 3 hours on the die. We just had to go long enough.
Yeah, it's like the fucking button from Lost. What is it? After every 108 minutes, I have to gaslight Chad.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.